Greetings, and welcome to my special Purple Portal. This is your hostess, Elaine Bartlett, your somewhat reluctant mystic. And indeed, I am a wonderer and a wanderer. And I hope to bring some of my wondering thoughts and insights to you, to expand your thinking, to enlarge your consciousness, because I know if we can do that together, you will fly high, you will be loving life, and you will have the life that you actually are destined to have, which is, by all accounts, happy, delightful, and delicious. So today in the United States of America, we've got some interesting things cooking because it is what is known as Election Day. So not only am I going to be speaking about Election Day today, I took the time today from an astrological point of view, both Western astrology and Chinese astrology, to look at the two players from a very objective, candid, and kind point of view. Of course, the word kind and kindness has not exactly been the earmarks of this whole shenanigan parade, but nonetheless, I'm going to give you great dollops of it today. But first, we've got some things to talk about. We're still, of course, under the sign of Scorpio, and that does mean death and dying, transition, transformation, rebirth, kind of the whole down into the ashes, into the phoenix routine. So I'm asking you to please look at your life and see where you should be letting go. That's the dying cycle, so that you can embrace the new. And I'll probably be asking it one more time even next week as we begin to approach the end of the Scorpio cycle. In the meantime, I do have a gal, Linda Kay, who is experiencing, maybe she is suffering. She's experiencing a wonderful birthday today out in Arizona. So hats off to you, my Linda, and hope it's a magical day. And another deep, deep thought of respect and admiration for my friend Laurel, who's been going into the ashes and coming up like the phoenix for several months throughout this year of the monkey, as her whole health has been revamped. That whole body has been totally revamped, and just out of the hospital one more time. So hats off to you and happy, healthy, healing journey. You know, because we're under the sign of Scorpio and this whole flavor of death and dying, I thought I would share with you a couple of unusual things that have to do with death and dying, and actually invite you to call in with your story about this once I tell you my story. So I'll show you mine if you show me yours. And if you would, call in and share and enjoy 321-806-3159. 321-806-3159. And there's no gremlin that will greet you. It's the wonderful manager and owner of this delightful talk network radio, Jeff, and he'll pipe you right on through to me. If you're hesitant to be live on air with me, feel free to ask any questions or concerns right directly to my email, which is purpleportal777@gmail.com. So again, that's purpleportal777@gmail.com. And please go to my website and check out who I am and what I'm all about. And the website is higherconsciousness.com. Higher Consciousness, and the higher is like the hierarchy, HIERCONSCIOUSNESS. So to continue here with a little bit of the death and dying theme for the month, I thought I would share with you a couple of unusual, I guess, situations that occur to people. And one of them is a very unusual occurrence called phone calls from the dead. And I don't know if any of you have ever received a phone call from the dead. There's actually a book written on it. The title is Phone Calls from the Dead. I don't have the author's name, but I know I do have a copy of it somewhere in my library. So phone calls of the dead actually goes along this line. Your phone rings, you pick it up, and you actually hear the voice of someone who is supposedly dead. We don't die. That's a myth. Your body dies, but and the awareness of your ego and your mind dies. But the essence of you, the pure presence, it can't die because it had no beginning and it has no end. And that pure essence is what can connect with you. And several years ago, probably now about the year 2010 or 11, my sister crossed over in 2010, and she, as I, were metaphysicians. And she had promised before she left she'd keep in touch. And I assured her that I would expect it and embrace it. So one day, about maybe 5 or 6 months after she left, I was in a sound sleep. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning, and the phone rang. And some which way, I reached over. It was a portable phone. I reached over, put it to my ear, and I could hear her speaking to me. I was so excited. I couldn't even carry on. I was like, oh my God, are you okay? How is everything? What's happening? And the phone seemingly went dead. Then I was wide awake, screaming into the phone, wait. And there was, at that point, no one there. But she had actually used the instrument of a telephone to connect. And one of the reasons I bring that up is because I have yet another sister, and she's going through a little bit of a bumpy time right now. And she was very close to my mother, who's also crossed over. And last night, about 9:30, I'm bopping around, minding my own business, I don't know, doing innocent little chores. Without a shadow of a doubt, I heard my mother speak to me, saying, call your sister. Call her right now. Tell her everything's going to be fine. She shouldn't worry. And I kind of brushed it aside, thinking, come on, I'm nuts. I'm going around the bend here. About 5 minutes later, please call your sister. Tell her not to worry. Well, by the second time I got the message, I dialed up immediately into New Jersey, and here this lovely being gets on the phone. I'm like, Julie, are you okay? Was today particularly worrisome because your mother had a message for you? And she could hardly speak. And she's like, oh, well, didn't she tell me anything else? Isn't there some timing on when this will lift? Well, they don't really have timing in that dimension, and there is no such thing. But you have to be assured that everything is going to work out, and try your best to put your worry down. And we both had a chuckle because this sister has always been known as the worry wart in the family. So we talked a few more minutes, and I could tell she was teary but very thankful. And the final one, now remember, if you have a good story, you have to call in 321-806-3159. Because I won't think you're nuts. I'll be like, yes, that is so fabulous. Don't doubt it. Don't deny it. Don't hide it. Enjoy it. So the last one is from a friend of mine up in the Jersey area, Janice. And Janice also has been doing a yeoman amount of work to learn and make inner corrections and try to do her very best at healing her life and thus the lives of anyone she touches. And the other night, now she didn't know I had all these other stories cooking under the sign of Scorpio, but she called to share this because it was so astounding to her. She has been on a cleaning rampage. Now, many of my troop has been on a cleaning rampage since Lakshmi's visit a couple of weeks ago, but it's the time for us to let go of all of our junk, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, let it all go. So she was in that mode, and she had been up in her attic sorting through volumes of paperwork that had to be shredded. And as she's up there, and I don't know if you've ever been up into the attics in New Jersey, many of them in these old homes, they're low ceilings, they're kind of dim, kind of creepy, kind of dusty. Well, that's where she was. And all of a sudden, she began to think of a girl that she had met about 25 years ago on a Club Med cruise. And because these two gals were single gals, they were partnered to share the room. Well, I don't know if you've ever been partnered out of the clear blue with someone. It could be either the kiss of death and you just want to throw yourself overboard, or you luck out and it's spectacular. Well, she lucked out, and these two women developed a very strong friendship, which continued for about 8 years or so. And then that gal, the other gal, went on to Los Angeles to study acting and become an actress. And then they kind of lost touch, and finally even the Christmas cards come to a stop. But all of a sudden, my friend Janice is up in the attic, and this girl is clearly in her thoughts. And she kind of brushed it aside. And you do doubt yourself. You think, oh, this is silly. I don't know why I'm thinking of her. Well, from the attic, when the attic was finished, she had to take herself down to the basement. And once again, the basements in Jersey are not much more great than the attics. They can be damp and dingy. So she's down there trying to hurry through whatever she needed to sort out. And she opens a box with bank statements. Resting on right under the lid, on top of the bank statements, is a letter from this girl, just sitting there all by itself. Well, the letter didn't say much, but other than, because it was written 20 years ago. But again, now the woman is enough in the mind's eye of Janice that she now goes to her computer and Googles the gal. As she was Googling, she's really feeling a deeper connection. And right as she was Googling, she understood the girl to say, I am no longer in body. With that, as she Googled, in 2004, this gal had died of Lou Gehrig's disease. So don't doubt what you're hearing. This stuff is magical. And it's such living proof that you don't die. And their friendship hadn't died. They were still connected spiritually, as you all are, as we all are. So I just thought that was pretty neat, and I just wanted to share that with you. So again, 321-806-3159. All right. One thing I would want to tell you about is from a galactic point of view. Now, the galactic energy is kind of above and beyond all my studies of metaphysics and Western astrology and Eastern astrology and Chinese astrology and numerology. It's an elite, and it's intricate and delightful, and of course it'll take me the next umpteen years to thoroughly master it. But in the meantime, I'll share what I'm getting as I go along. So very recently, matter of fact, this past Friday, a very large cycle was completed. It was an 812-day cycle. And what it did was it opened portals, if you will, probably a purple portal, into sprinkling seeds for another large cycle. And it just simply goes on to mention the United States presidential campaign, where from a galactic point of view, they're interlacing 4 key planets which are playing out at this time. First planet, Mars, bringing in the energy field of death and fear. Another planet, which they consider very strongly in their field, Maldek, Maldek, bringing in sex and all the taboos related to sex. And I don't know about you folks, but my computer was inundated this past week about sexual misconduct with the Clintons. Now, that's not a judgment. It's just what was happening on my computer. The next planet that's involved here for the next several years, Saturn, with greed and materialism. And finally, Jupiter with the full-on abuse of power. The galactic knowledge and mission is rapidly accelerating, parallel to the unfoldment of world events and machine technology. Your duty, my duty, is to remain strictly aligned with Source, your core essence. So it's very interesting that Mars, Maldek, Saturn, and Jupiter are, because of the shift this past Friday, these 4 energy fields are going to be so in your face for the next probably 2.5 years, going on 3. So there's a whole lot cooking there. You know, with this death thing, I do get concerned when I hear that different people who have served in one campaign or another are mysteriously coming up dead. I don't know how people can ignore that and pretend that yet again it was another suicide or a misstep. But I'm one who looks under the covers. I really want to know. I probably should have been an investigator, and I guess in some respects I am. I'm a cosmic investigator. Because cosmically, when things don't line up, I just can't swallow it. And that's because I want to see. I want to see what I'm swallowing. I want to know the source of it. Because just as I am choosing healthy physical food to eat, the organic apple over the one that's been sprayed to death, literally, with pesticides, I want to know what I'm eating mentally. And I really encourage you to want to know that too. It's your life. You're responsible for your well-being. So think that one through. All right. So in honor of today, I did a few things this morning. I looked at different oracles that I'm comfortable with, and one of them simply said, storm clouds. They're coming. You're in it. There's storm clouds. And certainly that feels legitimate to me. I think it is a storm cloudy kind of day. What is also very odd to me is between yesterday and the day before, everything almost went radio silent. There was no more, I don't know, it's like everything stopped. And today it's almost like if you've ever ridden out a hurricane, as we do in South Florida, it's that deadly calm before the storm. Kind of eerie, I'll tell you that. So what I wanted to do this morning, to just continue to feel out, again, from not a judgmental point of view, because in my reality, anyone who runs for this kind of office is not all well-balanced to begin with, but they have a role to play, and they're playing it as best they can. He is, and she is. So in that light, it doesn't make much difference what's going to happen. What's going to happen to us is going to happen to us. It's already in the cards. But I decided to look at first Donald Trump, because I knew his birthday was in June, and I also knew he was born in 1946. So from first a Chinese point of view, I really wanted to see, who are you? What are the elements that are making you up? What can I connect to? What can I relate to with you, sir? And then I did the same thing for Hillary, with an open heart and an open mind. So the first thing that came to pass with Donald Trump is, actually, I didn't jump into the Chinese astrology first because I had to write his numbers down, which is 6/14/1946. So it's June 14, 1946. And all of that equals, depending on which way you're adding things up, a 31, potentially you could get a 40. It just depends on how you do the math. But it all boils down to the number 4. Practical, being squared away, getting the job done. And whether we like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, this is part of his encoding, which is probably why he amassed a large fortune. He could get the job done. The first 2 parts of his birthday, the June, which is the number 6, and the 14, if you add those 3 numbers together, you actually come up with the number 11. And the number 11 is a visionary. And he is. Whether you like him or not, the man is a visionary. So when you see things like this, it's just black and white. You can't argue it. You can't find fault with it. It's how someone is encoded. What they do with it is another story. So from that point of visionary and from his ability to be squared away and get things squared away, then I actually looked at his Chinese astrology, and indeed he is what is called a dog. He's born in the year of the dog, and he's a Yang fire dog. This is a strong crusader for the underdog. Again, whether you like it or not, believe it or not, it's what his mission is soul-wise. The month he's born is called a Yang wood horse, which means he can horse around. Now, this is something I've not shared on the air. I have met Donald. I've met him a couple of times. I've been in his presence. And I would say to you, he's not particularly one to be horsing around. He was always rather intent on creating and moving life forward. So the wood is what took precedence here. And wood can be obstinate and stubborn and stiff-necked. Yep, I think we can see that about him. The day he was born was called a Yang earth sheep. The sheep is the sign of business. And the day you're born gives a complete encyclopedia about what you have come to do. So he's come to be a first-rate businessman. And again, you can't deny it. It just is what he did. And yeah, you can go down the pathway of, okay, but this wasn't illegal, this was illegal, and this was immoral, and yada, yada. Welcome to humanity at this point. Welcome to humanity. And the hour he was born was called a Yang earth snake. So the man is highly, highly intuitive. Interestingly, when he was conceived, the day he was conceived, the time he was conceived, there was what we call wood rooster energy afloat. Again, there's a stubbornness. Anytime the word wood is mentioned, it's a stubbornness, but it's a softer stubbornness than the month he was born. So he won't be totally irrational, but the rooster does need to sing their song, and they need to be out there kind of strutting their stuff. But oddly, if you're going to run for president, you can't be some wilted flower in the corner. So he's living his own conception day. And his life path is, yet again, we go back to that wood, but this is a little stronger, the wood horse. And in a way, he is a bit of a clothes horse. He likes to look good. And okay, good for him. Maybe some more people will like to look good. In Chinese, in the Chinese system, he comes in feng shui under under what is termed the piece of the Bagua called Li, Li, which is south, which is the Buddha energy. It has to do with illumination and bringing forth very high principles. Again, whether he's lived it remains to be seen. At this time, because he's in his 70th year, he's in a season, and he's been in this season since his 67th year. And I'd love to have a conversation with him and say, Donald, what happened to you at 67, in your 67th year? And it may be when he really firmly committed to this enormous cycle of running for a president, because he went into something called metal ox, which means he would have the wherewithal, the persistence, the actual intellect to go forward. This is a man that has tremendous stamina. He truly does. From this, he won't. I know from the past he has not had a drink. I don't believe in this whole lifetime. I don't think he's done drugs. So he's extraordinarily physically fit. In Western astrology, he does have his sun in Gemini, and his moon is, depending on which system you use, his moon is in Sagittarius or possibly in Scorpio. The system I use, I put his moon in Scorpio, which is where you get the acerbic comments, you get the stinging things that are happening. He can cut you down with a glance, with a word, and that's coming from there. He also has the sun conjunct Uranus. That's another thing that can get him in some hot water, because he will speak almost what would appear to be irrationally. It's almost like there's an electrical shortage. He was also born at an eclipse, which is very, very powerful. Again, though, do you use the power constructively or destructively? So those are little insights on Donald. And now I want to give Hillary her fair share. And Hillary came in October 26th, 1947. And all of her numbers whittle down to first a 30, so it's a 30, but you don't really use that 0, you boil it down to the 3. I suspect the 0 attached to the addition of 10 plus 2 plus 6 plus 1947, I suspect the 0 is what has given her the largeness of speaking ability to get out there and be able to say what she wants to say. The times of her birth differ. There are 3 different times given. I chose the one that she says she believes is correct, which would be 8:02 p.m. And what that did for her, well, it's interesting. Let me talk about numbers. Just as I did with Donald with the June and the 14th, if we take the 10 and the 26, we get the number 9. And 9 is completion. It's endings. So it is also a metaphysical number. I'd like to believe on the high side, she rises to that. But again, you never know where the person's standing in their own assignment, if you will, of what they've come to express. Is it the high side? Is it the low side? That, as it boils down to the 30, it can be too expansive, too expressive. You know, if indeed she's been involved in the corruption with children and pedophilia, it would be a completion, okay, unfortunately, of the worst kind, not the best kind. And the number 9, whenever I see a number 9 in someone's number pattern, I'm always encouraging them, be very universal in your thinking. Don't be exclusive. It's an inclusive number. It's a large number that says all religions are one, all people are one. So I'd like to think that she can get there in her inner being. She also, it's interesting because that first 9, so we've got the October, which is 10, and the 26th, there gives the first 9. 2016 is also an ending. So if I were doing just her simple numerology one-on-one, I would say, Hillary, this is a cycle of closure for you. Pay very close attention to your health, to your well-being, really for the next several months, easily through April and perhaps well on until her birthday in 2017. It's a bit of a precarious time health-wise for her. Now, in Chinese, she came in under the year of the pig, because that's what 1947 is. She's the year of the pig. And pig is generally a very favorable sign. It's considered a lucky sign. And I think she's had a lot of luck. You need hard work, but you need a lot of luck to get to the top of something in the United States called presidency. It's a combination of hard work and luck. Luck being who's supporting you, who's helping you pay for it. So there's a lot of luck involved. And she's a fire pig. She's a yin fire pig. So the fire, again, is that kind of she can stir things up when she needs to. The month that she came in is a yang metal dog, which probably gives her the ability to concentrate and be strong in her thinking. And I actually watched a couple of videos from her a long time ago. And a long time ago, I think perhaps she really was for the underdog and did have people's best interests at heart. My concern is perhaps along the way that got a little bit disjointed. But again, it remains to be seen. The day she came in is what we call a yang earth tiger. Now, a yang earth tiger is very sexual, very, very sexual. And her Western astrology echoed that with reason for me to be wondering what is the truth of all of these things that are surfacing and how much actually could possibly be the truth. However, on the real upside, that yang earth tiger, tigers can kind of slide in and out of things, which she has. She's slid in and out of things, again, for better or worse, because in life, you and I have slid in and out of things. Could be you just missed that car accident. You talked your way out of the F that you were supposed to get in class. So we're all sliding in and out of things. But that does bring strong, strong sexual energy. The hour, now again, I took the hour that she has proclaimed is the time she came in, is a yang water dog. And this gave me a little more concern for her health, because we've got now 2 dogs appearing in these pillars. Dog is a worrisome creature and can be a bit pessimistic and suffer from overthink in addition to everything. Well, all of that tends to undermine your health. And if you watch some of the videos of her in many of the last segments over the past 6 months, her health did not look good. I mean, all you had to do was look objectively. Her coloring looked off. Her skin looked off. And some of this actually was happening in the cycle of autumn metal, where she did seem to have a heavy cough. I've read some reports that say she actually had pneumonia. It is possible that she did have pneumonia and was on very, very strong medication, because her actual physicality is not particularly robust. It just is what it is. And I'm not being partial. I'm just kind of spelling it out from what I see. The other guy, his physicality is robust. It's how He was encoded. This is how she is encoded. So my caution to her would be, she needs more rest. She needs to take very good care of her physical body. Alcohol and drugs are not her friend because there's too much water here. And so even an antihistamine could potentially really throw her upside down. When she was conceived, it was a day of what we call metal ox. And this is what gives her the determination. This is what does give her a good intellect to really retain all the, well, as much as the facts and figures that you could possibly retain in that kind of office. Because the stuff changes minute to minute. Who could possibly retain it all? Who would retain it all? So in an odd way, I can almost see why she wouldn't particularly be aware of all the emails and all of the craziness that went on about that. And from this, I would pretty much suspect there's still more hidden with the emails, simply because there's a whole lot of metal here. And metal writes things down, and they communicate. And I go back to her numerology, this number 30. She's going to communicate. So there's reason why, yep, it probably happened. Yep, she probably doesn't remember it. Her life energy field has to do with, here comes the rooster, earth rooster. A rooster can kind of dig its little claws into the earth and get down and dirty, and then strut its stuff and give the cock-a-doodle-doo. So they both have some very strong points as to why they are each as they are at this time. Now, Hillary has, in Western astrology, it would actually put her sun in Scorpio. However, in a system that I use, which is more ancient, her sun is not in Scorpio, it's in Libra. Now, what I do when I see this kind of duality, I kind of try to marry them a little bit happily so they can live happily together. But the Scorpio, because there's still that flavor of Scorpio under one system, there again is the acerbic, out to get you, stinging, out to kill you if I need to, because it's that Scorpio energy. And she would shoot from the hip, as now you can see, they both have reasons astrologically why they are capable of doing this. Some of us are not encoded this way. I can't shoot from the hip to kill you. It would kill me first. I'm simply not encoded that way. So you kind of have to read the coding. But the Libra, if I look at it more from the Libra energy, well, one of the things that I do notice about her, because of my love of beauty and feng shui and all things that are in harmony, generally, she is very well put together clothing-wise. Whether you like her or not, she can look very, very... She chooses her clothing well, and those who help her choose the clothing. Good choices to generate a sense of balance and beauty and harmony. And that would come from the Libra energy. And that would be the piece of her that actually does want peace, that actually does want harmony. She also has her moon in Pisces. And the moon in Pisces is one of these, there's a few things here. Pisces is the highest of highs and the lowest of low signs. There's like no happy medium with the Pisces energy. On the high side, it's kind of going to save the world. It has only the good intentions for humankind. It wants people to do well. On the low side, we have every kind of perversion possible. You've got drugs, you've got alcohol, you've got corruption, you've got deception, you've got lies. Big time, big time. And if you couple either of those sides with her 30, which is where that initial her initial numerology is the 0 exacerbates any which way. So she's either going to be the healing savior if she gets into office, or she won't make it until election day. She'll be gone because the low side would kick in. And it's still anyone's guess what will happen here. As Donald is this Lee South energy, Hillary is the West group. So Donald is what we call the East group energy. Hillary is the West group in Feng Shui. And the West group tends to be very interested in learning. They tend to be a bit more philosophical, whereas the East group tend to be the doers. Let me move the mountain right now, where the West group might say, let me cogitate and figure out how I can move the mountain. Give me some days to plot it out and take a teaspoon and then see how it feels, move it over a little bit. And the East group goes for the juggler, though, let's get this mountain moved right now. And that, I think, you're seeing in both of these candidates. Donald, in his impetuousness, is saying, let's move the mountain right now. Let's change America. Let's get it great again. And Hillary is taking an approach of, let's talk about it. Let's think about it. Let's move it 1 teaspoon at a time. I can see it very clearly. I'm sure you can too. There's no judgment. There's no unkindness. It's just different temperaments. So Hillary, as Donald is Lee, Hillary is called Dui, and it's actually spelled Tui. And it actually means lake and the joyous one. So Hillary's got sort of this lake, meaning she should be as peaceful and still as the lake. Donald, the Lee South, actually means brightness, brilliance, shine. So they're coming at it from 2 different energy frequencies. Anybody have any question about that? Anybody want to comment? 321-806-3159. So I think you can get a sense that there is no black and white. Every single one of us is encoded for the livingness to express through us individually exactly how it wants to. And there really is no right or wrong. It's just what you're encoding. In this case, where we're trying to select someone to represent us as best we can, my concern all these, what seems now years and years this has gone on, but for these many, many months, my concern is people didn't stay still enough to actually work to see what they actually feel about their life, make some changes, and then make a healthier choice about either one of these 2 choices. It's no accident that these 2 people are here. Soul-wise, they've earned this opportunity, if you can call it that. Many people would never, ever want to step into their shoes with this kind of opportunity. Much of it is not particularly fun. And I'm not even convinced in this country, which is actually a corporation, and if you'll do a little research, you will see it's a corporation. I'm not quite convinced that whoever is elected is not simply a figurehead anyway, because the corporation is run by hidden figures and hidden powerhouses and hidden corporations that have an agenda. So whoever gets in there is simply going to have to follow orders. So what's the big rigmarole? Allow these people their day in the sun. This is the role that they're thinking is great. So, all right, let it be. Let it be. Interestingly, in the year of the monkey, which we are in, we've been in this fire monkey year since February. There's been a whole lot of swinging from branch to branch within yourself, within the media. Oh, the media. Don't you hope that the media cleans up their act? If nothing else comes out of this, Here's what I really wish. I actually don't care who gets in. This I do care about, though. The media becomes accountable for their own deception. Ooh, that I do care about. The Department of Justice has a complete overhaul. The CIA, really, that's all you can say about them. And every other supposed powerhouse begins to really clean up the essence of themselves. That's what's going to hold the country in a better light. Not either of these two people. This is just a role they're playing. Just as I'm playing a role speaking to you, you're playing a role listening to me. No role is better than the other role. Just a role. So can't you see where if we'll get nothing else as the public out of this other than to insist that things get cleaned up, that would be why this all could have taken place. That could be the reason. If tomorrow everyone drops everything in boredom as if it never happened, I would tell you, you've lost yourself. What a pity. What a shame that would be. And why I would consider it a shame is because the United States is not the number one country in the world. As much as they like to blab their little mouths that they are, it is not. Any which way. But I love this country, and it could be again. It could be a leader. At this point in our evolution, quite frankly, nobody and no place should be number one. We're all number one countries. But then let's rise up to that. Let's fix our education system. Let's get workers back to work. How can they sit there day after day watching a reality show which is no more real than the Man in the Moon? And then have to turn to drugs and sad things. No, use what's happened here. Use the atrocity of these past several months to continue making this a better world. So I posted on my blog today this. As folks begin to emerge from the trauma and continuous assault by media pertaining to today's election, for what now seems like an eternity, I suspect many will require what I see as a specialized ER treatment. Election recovery. Many fell unwittingly into the trap. My candidate is right. Yours is the devil. Therefore, implied, although not spoken, I hate you. Some jumped into the trap knowingly and rather gleefully. However you landed in the trap is of no consequence. What's important here is whether you can, or more correctly, will you now begin to release yourself from your self-imposed trap of righteousness, judgment, opinion, contempt, and hatred? Being attracted to or repelled by one ideology or another causes mental confusion and lots of conflict. The pain, individual pain, and our collective pain caused by this conflict was broadcast and witnessed globally as people from other lands, as well as this land, watched the debacle of separation and hatred played out ad nauseatum. Many citizens of this fair country chose over and over to move out of non-duality and smack into the hostile arms of duality. For those who moved into duality and wish to right the spirit rapidly, I encourage you, head for the election recovery room at your earliest convenience. I have directions for this on my website. Go to higherconsciousness.com for the rest of it. The rest of it will lift you up. Hopefully my words have lifted you up. Be all that you should be. Let your light shine. Shine on, kids. Shine on. Till next week, loving you. Bye.